kind of an encore. Well, not really, a de facto encore. Uh, I meant to say this, and I was thinking about this morning, and I meant to say this. There was a mist all over the mountains, and I meant to say this in the last video, but I forgot. But I'll put it. It's a video of its own now called "The Grey Man." Within the folklore of this part of Ireland, Sligo, Mayo, North Galway, there is a fairy on Farlith, on Farliath, depending on the vernacular, means the grey man. You know, you've heard me talk on other channels and other programs, like Hare and the Hawthorn, about in Ireland, the there's a very fine line within Irish fairy folklore between what constitutes a fairy and what constitutes a demon. Now that's not, and then in general, the Irish traditionally have been terrified of fairies, and the Irish fairy, the she, is not like the English fae. It's malicious, and generally it's malicious. And I often think this is what Tolkien meant by Ireland was a land that was full of evil, but it was only the goodness of the people living here that's kept that evil at bay. Now, that's not to say all the fairy folk of Ireland are evil. I mean, the merfolk, the mermaids, the selkies, they are fairies who are favourably disposed to Irish people. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they've been intermarried with them. Generally, a female selkie makes an excellent partner for a man. Uh, they're considered excellent women. And a lot of women in my life that I know and have known have this selkie-like quality about them, almost like fairy selkie-like quality about them. But which I find kind of interesting. But they're generally the type of woman I'd be attracted to. Now, the grey man is a particularly nasty one. He's, he's a shapeshifter for starters. You will see him as a man. He'll look like Gandalf-y kind of. He wears a cloak. It's grey, and he'll be with a hat with a pointy top on it, a pointy hat like, wizard's kind of hat. And you would mistaken him for a stereotypical wizard or something walking through the bogs. He predominantly lives in coastal areas, but will live in damp upland and inland regions like marshes and bogs. And that's weird how that got all washed out like that. And he will kill humans for fun. Not directly, he will lead them astray. So, and for sport even. Now, the grey man will also appear as a mist or smoke, and he will use his mist or his smoke as a means to camouflage things that will lead humans into danger. I'll give you an example. One time I was walking across the bogs in the very remote mountains where I live, and they are quite remote by Irish standards, in fact. But farmers still have harvested those bogs over the years and dug very deep trenches that go down 10 feet to drain the bogs, and to say like every few years. But this one hadn't been dug in years, so it filled up. So it was like a 10-foot drop with about 6 feet of deep water below it, freezing cold. And there was a mist across the bog, and I came this close to falling into it. There's no way out of it. You would never crawl out of it. There's no way out of it. And you die of hypothermia and this could be before you got to the end of it. But that was the grey man. The mist was hiding the hole in the ground, the trench. And the grey man will lure mariners to their death by on a night where there's dangerous rocks at the sea. Unfamiliar sailors won't know about it. He will cloak the landscape in grey cloud, sea mist, so the mariners crash upon the rocks. So the grey man is an evil fairy. Well, you have to understand, not evil to him. He just preys on humans, maybe captures their energies or something, their death energy. So it's just food for him, but it's evil to us. And he sometimes it caused mischief in both town and countryside. and he will cause problems, like he will cause things like fires. Now, and it causes fires in things like a cowshed, and the cows will die, or cause smoke in the cowshed and the cows will suffocate. Now, why am I talking about this now? Well, aren't we living under the grey man, the Klaus Schwabs, the Bill Gates, the Soroses, who clandestinely hide horrible things that are killing us behind other things. So, like Mother Hydra's babies behind the needlecraft. And when I talk about smoke and how they damage livestock with smoke and things like that, there was a horrible thing in America happened where 18,000 cows, awful, in a milking shed, were burned alive. And then we have all those chicken fires and everything. And then we've had, and I remember, like, when the movie The Mist came out, I was like, oh, that's almost like the the digital gin version of the Grey Man. The Grey Man uses mist and smoke and miasmas and fog to hide dangers, and then this unsuspecting person is then lured into, So if you put that on a psychic level, it's bamboozled, psychological terrorism. So it's almost like there's an archetype of a fairy for everything. The Grey Man is like the fairy for what we're dealing with in the world today. And I was just thinking about that coming in this morning. Think about that one. Let that one sit in your head about the Grey Man. He's a fog of danger, but when he appears to humans, he seems like a kind of a dodgy old man. And look at Soros. Look at not so much Gates, but definitely Klaus Schwab. Just look at them. And it's all hidden behind, we're going to make things great for everybody. New society, great open society, great resets, build back better. And that's what I was thinking of, like Biden represented yesterday during the week coming to Ireland. He was the Grey Man, and the country was covered in fog and terrible weather, atrocious weather, and all the people being led out to believe they were taking part in something that was wonderful, but it was really just about feeding the Grey Man. So remember that one. There's Irish fairy folklore is fantastic. There's a fairy for like an archetype for basically everything. But I also believe those things do exist as well. They're real. So if you live in this part of Ireland and you're going along the seashore and there's a mist, or you're walking across a flooded bog and there's a fog, just be careful. It might be the Grey Man on Farleath and trying to trick you to your doom. And likewise, when you have all these old men, very old men, auctionarians and everything, like Soros, like Klaus Schwab, like them all, sitting there telling you they got plans to build you a better world. Biden too, a better world, and offering freedom and inclusivity and all this stuff. Remember, that's the Grey Man too. It's probably an archetype that represents the devious old man that pretends to be like a kind of a loving granddad, a Santa Claus, or something like that, but is really a kind of a monster. This is Jimmy Savile behind it. Savile was a Grey Man. So there you go. There's a fairy archetype for everything. Okay, that's what I forgot to talk about. I love you all. Bye.